Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Douglas Johnson. I am a yoga teacher at the advanced 500-hour level. I'm an ordained minister, I'm a kirtan artist, a musician, amongst other things. And today, wanted to talk about stress. Let's talk about stress, baby. Before I get into the talk though, I do need to thank the community that makes these talks possible, and that is my Patreon community over on Patreon. So if you've been getting value from the content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you want to do a little more, you can check out the links below. You can tip me one time on PayPal or Venmo, or you can become a part of that community that contributes monthly. It allows me to really approach this as part of my job. Okay, so stress. Is stress good or bad? Usually when we use that word, we're using it in a negative connotation. There are actually two kinds of stress, you might say, or two amounts. So no stress is actually bad, whether we're talking about physical stress or psychological stress. We need a little bit of stress to grow and to stay healthy. Indeed, I would say that life probably would not be very interesting without stress. So if you listen to music, music always has tension and release to one degree or another. Without that, it's just not music, it's not interesting. So everything in life has this sort of yin-yang quality to it, and stress is no different. So stress is neither inherently good or bad. It is just a part of life. What makes it good or bad is the amount. So when it comes to physical stress anyway, we have terms for these things. So stress that helps you become healthier, stronger, helps your body adapt is called eustress. It's also called hormetic stress or a therapeutic stress. Okay, so this is like lifting weights or doing a power yoga class or a yin yoga class. These different types of physical stress will coax better health out of your body. Your body adapts to the stress and it gets healthier. The same is true of emotional stress, psychological stress. So children who are never allowed to deal with stress are what we call spoiled brats. And some of these people become spoiled adults. So it's very important to allow children to deal with some level of appropriate stress at the right time. Okay, and at the right time is very important. My understanding is in the first 3 years of childhood, there really shouldn't be big, stressful events. Generally, you really want the mother and the child to co-regulate together. But at a certain point, a child, they grow up, they want a candy now, and you tell them they can't have it. And, you know, they have a temper tantrum. And so letting them have the temper tantrum, letting them self-soothe, letting them know, that it's okay for them to feel that way, but that they do need to learn to regulate is important, because as an adult, I'm sure you know, you can't always get what you want when you want it. So we have to have ways of dealing with that stress internally. So stress, it's a necessary part of life. It's neither good nor bad. It can be good and it can be bad. So when it's too much, we call it distress. And so distress on a physical level will be something like pulling a muscle, right? Pulling a hamstring, something like that. So you are stressing the body, you're getting benefit, but then you overdo it and the body cannot adapt anymore, can't take anymore. And so something breaks, if you will. Okay, so there's always a healthy limit to stress. Psychologically, what happens when there's too much stress? Well, we call it trauma. right? Trauma is like, it's too much for us to handle. And again, there's appropriate amounts of stress for different points in our life. When we're little children, maybe having our mother taken away from us for an extended period of time is traumatic. It would create scars or psychological problems on a very deep level. When we're adult, we might be able to be away from our mother indefinitely and it not be a problem, okay? So again, we need to always be cognizant of context, right? Who are we dealing with and where are they in their development? You know, if we just think about physical stress, giving a baby a barbell to lift is an impossible task. Giving an adult a barbell to lift is something that they can do and can be beneficial for them. Okay, so keep this in mind. Generally, what I'm talking about is for adults, not for children. Okay, so we have good stress, eustress, bad stress, distress. And again, no stress is also a problem. We won't develop properly physically, mentally, emotionally without stress. So teasing your brain, dealing with, say, heartbreak or other emotional things that come with life. These are just things that we grow from if they're approached in the right way. So I've already mentioned there's psychological, mental, physical, emotional stress. Okay, so let's talk a little more about the psychological, so we could say the mental or emotional aspect of it, because I find that this is a real issue for modern people like you and I. The modern world is very unnatural, and we have information that our ancestors didn't have information to, which can be a good thing and also a bad thing. So a blessing or a curse, depending on how you're looking at it. So one of the negative aspects of this is that we get bad news piped in from around the world. And if we keep up with this, the nightly news or however you get your news, it can seem like the world is constantly falling apart and like we live in the most dangerous of times. You know, there might be some truth to the fact that we live in unprecedented times, but I would say we also have advantages and blessings that are unprecedented. So while maybe the threats might be more, there are also solutions and benefits that are more today than ever before. So again, having a perspective that, oh, the world is falling apart or the world is going to end, it might feel that way, but I think it feels that way mostly because of the news cycle and the fact that we're exposed to this. So again, this is a new thing. This is an unnatural thing. In the past, you would have just been dealing with your family and maybe your workplace, your local events. If you go back far enough, that would have been the end of it. And then, you know, as we expand closer to the current day and age, you have more awareness of what's going on around the world. But I would argue that modern people are dealing with more psychological stress than peoples of any time before. When I say modern people, I mean people who live in a modern context. There are Aboriginal peoples who are still living in nature and they may not be dealing with these levels of stress. But if you're watching this video, chances are you are, because you're a modern person living in a modern culture. So let's take a look at psychological stress and what we can do about it, because a lot of illness and other issues are linked to psychological stress. So if we go back to stress not being good or bad, but really an amount, I would say modern people are dealing with more stress than they should be. And in a natural setting, stress would usually be short, and That's what the science is telling us that our nervous systems are really designed to deal with, is short bursts of stress. So you might have an incident, something happens, your body revs up for fight or flight. It's ready to deal with or handle the stress. Maybe there's a bobcat lunging at you. Your body gets ready to either fight the bobcat, to run away, and deal with the situation that way. In modern times, that response is usually not appropriate. If, let's say, a car is barreling toward you, then yes, that type of physical stress is appropriate. But what's interesting is our body deals with emotional stress and physical stress in much the same way. So we have the increase in adrenaline and cortisol, our heart rate goes up, our muscles tense, our mind begins to race. These are all signs of stress. And again, in a natural setting, a car is about to hit you, or say physical setting, car is about to hit you, you jump out of the way, and it's over and you forget about it. But with the nightly news and world events and all of these types of things, it seems like the stress never goes away, right? So this is important to understand. So a lot of you listening might not think that you're stressed out. But one thing I've learned, having done yoga and meditation for such a long time, is you have no idea how relaxed you could be. I mean, you can just keep letting go of layers of tension and you just get more and more calm, peaceful, relaxed, and blissful. So most people have no idea because they've never experienced this. And this is one of the reasons why I recommend at some point in your life going and doing like a retreat. Like a lot of people go on vacation. Vacation can be just as stressful as your daily life, or even more stressful depending on your family, who's with you, where you are, and what you've got planned. It can be a lot of fun and exciting too, but it's not going to give you an experience of deep peace and relaxation. So I recommend everybody at least once go on a high quality, okay, that's how I'll put it, high quality yoga retreat. If you can, the longer the better. But with a teacher, someone who really knows what they're doing, because if you just go on an average yoga retreat, a lot of times you're just doing some postures in the morning, and then maybe some postures in the evening. You might even be drinking at the pool during the day. It may just be like a vacation with some yoga. And a lot of times, it's in some exotic location. And it might be a lot of fun, again, but it's not going to produce the results that I'm speaking about. So we want to find a teacher and a retreat that's going to give us a very deep feeling of relaxation, deep peace. So we know what that's like. Then we go back to our lives, and very often what we'll notice is that, wow, I really hate going back to my life because my life is so stressful. And that way you have a baseline understanding about your stress, all right, how stressful your life is. Now remember, stress is really important. It's not a small thing. It impacts our health and our well-being in so many ways. Okay, so what's interesting about stress is we can deal with it by simply not creating it. And so this can take a few different shapes. For instance, if I have a job that is very stressful, I could leave that job, right? I could say, I don't want to deal with the stress anymore, and quit the job. And that's one way of dealing with it. Another way of dealing with it is actually managing your stress. And this usually takes the form of some kind of mindfulness practice. And the best mindfulness practice that I'm aware of to deal with stress is meditation. One form of meditation that has proven to be very helpful with dealing with stress is yoga nidra, or sleep meditation. If you're interested, I actually have yoga nidras that I've recorded on this channel. If you can come to a live event with me, we often do yoga nidra as part of that. But there are also lots of other content creators who have yoga nidras available. So again, you might find one that you like and take up that practice. And this again is a way of dealing with the stress. Again, we can't always quit our job or change or get rid of sources of stress in our life. And remember, stress can be good within limits. So it's really when the stress becomes too much for us to bear. And I do want to mention that by the time you have a psychological breakdown, you're way past too much. So some people, they just don't even pay attention until they mentally or emotionally collapse. Ideally, we catch wind of it way before then, okay? So creating it. Now, when we cope with stress, there are two ways of coping with it. So it may seem strange, but people who drink too much, people who do drugs, people who have other binge watch television shows, people who eat too much, these are people who are often dealing with stress. They're coping with it, but their coping mechanism is not particularly healthy, okay? So again, this is why I mentioned the mindfulness practices. These are healthy ways of dealing with stress. So what this might mean for you is, if you feel that you're overweight, this could be the sign that you're dealing with stress. Again, many people don't even know they're dealing with it. So again, being overweight, eating too much, eating stuff you don't want to eat that you don't think is healthy for you, drinking too much. And again, sometimes people are doing these things and they won't admit that it's a problem, or they don't see it as a problem. But other times, people with enough awareness, they can recognize, you know what, this isn't the best behavior, this isn't the healthiest thing for me. And they might not know why they're doing what they're doing. So again, there are two ways of dealing with the stress that we create, healthy and unhealthy. And again, when I say mindfulness practices, and I mentioned yoga nidra, it's not the only one. There are many other methods. Breathing techniques are very, very powerful for dealing with stress. So again, I'm not going to go through an exhaustive or comprehensive list of all the mindfulness techniques that you can use. There are plenty out there. I'm just sort of giving you the broad outline here. Find ones that you like and that work for you to reduce your stress. Okay, so the other approach, of course, is, like I mentioned, not creating stress. So getting yourself out of situations that create stress. Like I said, this is usually somewhat limited, but sometimes this can be, we might have more ability to do this than we think. So there might be certain individuals that we expose ourselves to that really stress us out. We might think that we have to deal with these people, but upon deeper, further examination, we might find, you know what? I actually don't need to deal with this person. Or same with our job. We might find that we really don't like our job and we've convinced ourselves that we don't have a choice, but you might find that you actually do. So we can reduce the stress, but another way of dealing with it that maybe isn't talked about enough is actually expanding our comfort zone. And this is something I've spoke about in the past, and it's something I'm a really big fan of. And this is where practices like yin yoga or power yoga can really teach us a lot when we reach our level of discomfort, right? So learning to hold space for that and not react, and learning that we're okay, and learning to regulate our nervous system while feeling or experiencing discomfort. And this is a very, very powerful thing. These are powerful tools for us because life won't always be easy. And there might be certain things that are just outside of my reach if I could allow myself to deal with more discomfort. So, as an example, let's say that I want to build a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I start building my business, doing whatever it is, and then the first problem comes along. And I get so stressed out, and I get into my amygdala, which is my lizard brain, and I stay there because I'm so stressed out. I'm not using my executive function. I'm not making wise choices. I'm making choices like a lizard, basically. And as a result of that, my business goes under. And I say, you know, I guess I'm just not cut out to be an entrepreneur. Well, maybe that's not true. Perhaps if I can learn how to regulate my nervous system, and again, if you're starting a business, there are going to be those moments, those stressful moments, those difficult moments, and something comes along and the stress hits. But now through mindfulness practices, through other techniques, I learn to manage or deal with that stress. I learn that I'm still okay. And this actually expands my comfort zone. It makes it so that there are more situations that I can deal with without going into that sympathetic nervous system response of fight or flight, flight, or freeze. Some people add fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So whatever the response is, it's not really appropriate, it's not really healthy, but it is a cope, right? So learning how to deal with those situations in a healthier way, in a more constructive way, in a way that's going to produce the results that we want. So I'd love to hear from you. How are you managing your stress? Are you managing your stress? Do you feel stressed out? Do you have any pointers or tips for people? Leave them in the comments below. As always, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon and everyone who supports the community here. You can also help out by checking out the shop. There are links at the start and the end of every video. My friend and I designed those things together. Until next time, namaste, and have a beautiful day.